You know, if you look at how we manage our physical lives, there is this immense societal expectation of just rigorous
Oh,
organization.
yeah, absolutely. Everything has a place.
Right. Like you probably have your digital calendar color-coded by work, family, and social events. You might have a budgeting app that automatically sorts every single dollar into these neat little pie charts.
hmm Or physical filing cabinets, digital folders, labeled bins in the garage. We build these incredibly structured architectures, to keep our external lives from falling apart.
Yeah, because we crave that categorization. When the physical environment is structured, your brain just doesn't have to work as hard to navigate it.
Exactly. You know where your car keys are so you don't panic every single morning.
But then, I mean, you turn inward. You look at our internal lives, our existential dread, our daily focus, and for most of us, there are no filing cabinets whatsoever.
None at all. It's just a free-for-all.
It really is. There's no architecture.
Mm.
It is just this chaotic junk drawer of colliding thoughts. I'll admit it, yesterday I spent 45 minutes completely paralyzed staring at a wall because I was future tripping about a mildly difficult conversation next Thursday.
Oh, I've been there. We all do it.
Right. I just woke up and immediately started drowning in this formless sea of anxiety.
Which is the reality for the vast majority of people, really.
Hmm.
We leave our inner lives entirely unmanaged. We basically let our primal threat responses dictate our day, and then we wonder why we feel so utterly exhausted by noon.
Yeah, the sheer volume of unstructured thought is just overwhelming. But today, we're going on a deep dive into what I'd call a masterclass in building that internal filing system.
And it comes from a somewhat unexpected place, actually.
It does. We are unpacking a fascinating set of notes from a women's Sunday school class taught by a woman named Donna Cavin, and this is dated February 27th.
What makes this specific document so compelling isn't just its theological origin, it's the profound psychological utility embedded right in it.
Yeah, regardless of your personal belief system, what we have here is a highly structured, incredibly deliberate framework for managing daily anxiety and just organizing human thought.
It really is. It tackles these massive, abstract human struggles like fear of the future, feelings of insignificance.
And the goal for us today is to extract the mechanics of this toolkit. Because if you are listening to this right now, maybe you're on your commute, white-knuckling the steering wheel, thinking about your inbox.
Right. Dreading the day.
Exactly. These notes offer a surprisingly practical blueprint for cutting through that mental noise.
They break down the overwhelming nature of our own needs into actionable, sequential steps that honestly align beautifully with modern psychology.
Okay, let's unpack this. The overarching theme of this lesson is titled, Help Me to Live One Day at a Time.
Which is a classic sentiment, but it goes deeper here.
It does, because it confronts exactly what I was doing yesterday, that future tripping. Our tendency to live in tomorrow's problems instead of today's reality.
Yeah.
But the text frames this goal with a really striking perspective shift.
The whole time concept.
Right. It uses the phrase, with the Lord, one day is as 1,000 years.
And the underlying mechanism there is something we can view as cognitive time dilation.
Cognitive time dilation. I want to dig into that because that sounds like, I don't know, an astrophysics term.
It does sound like sci-fi, yeah. But it is a fascinating anchoring concept for an anxious brain.
So how does thinking about one day stretching into 1,000 years actually help someone whose heart is racing about a meeting next week?
Well, we have to look at how our brains process threat and time. When you are anxious, your temporal focus dramatically narrows. It's an evolutionary response.
Because your brain thinks you're being chased by a bear, basically.
Exactly. Your amygdala perceives a threat, and suddenly you feel incredibly rushed. You feel like time is running out, and therefore tomorrow's problems are already crashing into today.
You're trying to solve next Thursday's problem on a Tuesday morning.
Yes. So by introducing this concept that one day is as 1,000 years, the text is fundamentally expanding the present moment.
It's giving you, like, psychological breathing room.
Precisely. It suggests that today has infinite depth and infinite capacity if you just stop rushing past it to get to tomorrow. It's a cognitive intervention to pull your prefrontal cortex back online.
Okay, so you stretch the present moment out so wide that you can't even see tomorrow on the horizon.
Right. The horizon gets pushed back.
And the notes don't just leave that as a vague philosophical idea, which I love. They immediately pivot from that massive concept of time to a very granular checklist of daily needs.
Because abstract ideas need practical grounding to actually work.
Yeah. The goal is to focus on what is happening right now, trusting that every single category of need will be met. And they list them out explicitly in the text. financial, relational, physical, social, spiritual, and emotional.
And that breakdown is so vital. When people say they are anxious, they usually aren't dealing with one specific problem.
No, it's just a giant cloud of dread.
Right. They're lumping all of those distinct categories into one terrifying monolith. Your brain just registers danger in big flashing letters.
It's the junk drawer again. Everything is tangled together. Looking at that list actually made me think of a daily allowance.
Oh, that's an interesting way to frame it.
Yeah, because usually when we worry about survival, we only think of our financial allowance or our physical needs, like, do I have enough money in the bank? Am I healthy?
The measurable things, yeah.
Exactly. But this text treats emotional, social, and relational needs with equal weight. It's essentially saying you are allotted a specific amount of relational grace or emotional resilience strictly for today.
Oh, I see. So if you worry about tomorrow, you're dipping into funds you don't have yet.
Yes. If you spend tomorrow's emotional allowance today by worrying about a future event, you go into emotional debt.
You bankrupt today's energy to pay for tomorrow's phantom problems. That's a great analogy. And the text actually grounds this mechanism in a specific historical anchor, Philippians 4:6, quoting, "For tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Let the day's own trouble be sufficient for the day."
Sufficient for the day. I mean, you hear echoes of that in Stoic philosophy too, right?
Oh, entirely. Marcus Aurelius wrote constantly about confining yourself to the present.
Yeah. And the text follows this up with assurances like, ask and it will be given, and knock and the door will be open, along with, I am the way, the truth, and the life.
It builds a foundation of total trust.
Right. So the instruction not to worry isn't just some empty platitude like a bumper sticker saying, don't worry, be happy. It's saying the architecture of reality is designed to support you if you just stay in the present.
Which is a beautiful, deeply comforting concept. But, if expanding time and trusting the present is the theory, we inevitably run into a practical wall.
Because telling someone who is already caught in an anxiety loop that they shouldn't worry is notoriously ineffective.
It's basically the worst thing you can say. You need a method to actually change tracks.
And that is where the architecture really gets built in these notes. They provide a concrete, step-by-step roadmap to shift that focus. They call it the steps for devotional prayer.
Yes, and since I look at behavioral frameworks all the time, this sequence is particularly fascinating.
Walk us through how this specific sequence operates, because there are 6 steps, right?
Right, 6 very deliberate steps. Step 1 is adoration and praise, which the notes link to the Lord's Prayer. Step 2 is recognizing God's will and sovereignty.
Okay, and then step 3?
Step 3 is expressing your needs. And there's a specific underlined note here not to forget to pray for others. Step 4 is repenting and asking for forgiveness. Step 5 is asking to be kept from temptation and stumbling. And finally, step 6 is to close with praise.
Okay, looking at that structure, notice how this whole process is bookended by praise, like step 1 and step 6. We start with adoration, we end with praise.
And the praise sandwich is infinite.
Yeah, exactly. Why put the heavy lifting, the expressing needs, the facing your own flaws, the repenting in the middle of a praise sandwich?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really comes down to the psychology of framing and our brain's natural negativity bias.
Because we're always looking for what's wrong, right?
Precisely. Human beings are biologically wired to scan for threats. So if you approach your internal monologue or your journaling or your prayer life purely from a state of deficit.
Like starting by just listing out your problems.
Exactly. If you start with, I need this, I'm scared of that, I failed at this, your brain remains locked in a state of threat assessment. Your cortisol levels just stay high.
So starting with adoration acts as a pattern interrupt.
It completely shifts the neural pathway. It intentionally frames the entire exercise in a positive, grounded mindset, so you don't just recite a list of complaints. And step 2 is equally critical, recognizing sovereignty.
Which means what, psychologically speaking?
In secular psychological terms, that is the active relinquishment of control. It is reminding yourself that you are not the general manager of the universe.
Which is a huge relief, honestly. I do not want that job.
Nobody does, but our anxiety constantly tricks us into thinking we have it. By the time you get to step 3 to actually express your needs, you've already established a mental environment of abundance and trust.
You've bypassed the amygdala's alarm bells.
Yes, you've turned off the sirens.
And then, right after you express your needs, step 4 forces you to look at your own behavior, repenting and asking for forgiveness. I thought about that sequence a lot.
It's a vulnerable place to be.
It is, but it seems like once you've acknowledged that you are cared for in those earlier steps, you finally have the psychological safety required to do rigorous self-reflection.
That's spot on. You couldn't do step 4 effectively if you started there.
Right. If I sit down and immediately list all my flaws and mistakes, I'm just going to spiral into shame.
And shame is a paralyzer. Safe environments encourage growth. By cushioning the self-critique between safety and praise, it becomes constructive rather than destructive.
It stays focused on trust rather than fear.
Exactly. And closing with praise at step 6 ensures you don't walk away from the practice feeling depleted. It's a transition mechanism.
You re-enter your daily life carrying a sense of completion, not a lingering sense of lack.
It seals the practice beautifully.
It is such a profound structure for deep, focused time. If you have 20 minutes in a quiet room, that 6-step process is incredibly grounding. But let's be real for a second.
We don't always have 20 minutes.
We don't. What about when you are in the grocery checkout line or stuck in traffic and you feel the panic rising? The lesson notes recognize that we don't always have the bandwidth for the full mental marathon.
Right, they offer a brilliant quick reference tool designed to be taught to others.
Yeah, the text specifically notes this is excellent for our grandchildren to learn.
The 5-finger prayer. I have to say, this is one of the most elegant, tactile mnemonic devices for teaching empathy and structured mindfulness that I have encountered.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's brilliant because it requires nothing but your own physiology. You literally put your hands together in prayer and use your fingers as a map.
It's so clever.
Let me lay out the anatomy of this for you. First, the thumbs. Anatomically, when your hands are clasped, the thumbs are the closest fingers to your heart. So the thumb is your cue to think of your family and those closest to you.
Proximity maps to emotional closeness.
Exactly. Next is the pointer finger. We use that to point the way, right? So this finger directs us to focus on teachers, pastors, and people who guide us.
The guides and directors of society.
Then comes the middle finger, which is the tallest finger. This stands for leadership over us. The notes say to pray for the school principal, policemen, the president, and government officials.
The authority figures, standing tall.
Right. After that is the ring finger. Now, from a biological standpoint, the ring finger is actually the weakest finger on the hand. It shares a flexor muscle with the middle and pinky fingers, so it really can't extend fully on its own.
I didn't actually know that about the flexor muscle. That's fascinating.
Yeah. So this weak finger becomes the cue to focus on the weak, the poor, the sick, and the struggling. And finally, the pinky, the smallest and the last finger. This is the cue to focus on ourselves.
What's fascinating here is the sheer brilliance of that physical to mental mapping.
You literally carry this bodily map for empathy with you everywhere.
You do. Linking abstract societal concepts to literal attributes of the hand ensures that the user, whether it's an adult or young child, can instantly recall the entire framework under pressure.
But I want to play devil's advocate here for a second, especially on that final step.
Okay, let's hear it.
Putting ourselves on the pinky finger, making ourselves the absolute smallest and last priority. I mean, modern therapy and honestly, pop culture heavily promotes the oxygen mask theory, right?
Put your own oxygen mask on before assisting others.
Right. Prioritize your own boundaries. So is there a risk in putting ourselves as the absolute smallest and last priority? Or is that actually the ultimate antidote to the self-centered anxiety we talked about at the beginning of the deep dive? Does it cross over into toxic self-neglect?
It's a really fair question and a common modern concern. But we have to look at the specific context of what this tool is designed to combat, which is anxiety and rumination.
Okay, how so?
Well, clinical anxiety is inherently a hyper self-focused state. It turns our vision entirely inward. We become completely obsessed with our future, our safety, our reputation.
So our ego gets huge when we're anxious.
Massive. So this mnemonic operates as an active mechanism for decentering the ego.
So it's not about self-neglect at all. It's about breaking a narcissistic loop.
Precisely. If you are sitting in traffic, spiraling about your own life, telling yourself to focus on your own needs just feeds the spiral.
You're just adding gas to the fire.
Exactly. By anchoring the categories of society to the hand proximity, guidance, authority, and vulnerability, it systematically forces the practitioner to survey the entire community before they are allowed to look inward.
You have to actively contemplate the people you love, the people who govern you, and most importantly, the people who are suffering more than you before you even get to your own needs.
It forces an outward gaze.
That ring finger detail, the weakest finger representing the vulnerable, it's so poignant. It forces you to look out the window before you look in the mirror.
And consider what happens by the time you reach the pinky finger. Your perspective has been radically recalibrated. You are no longer viewing your own needs in a terrifying vacuum.
Right. They aren't the only things that exist anymore.
You are viewing them within the context of an interconnected web of humanity. Placing the self last isn't about saying you don't matter. It's about right-sizing your problems.
It completely decentralizes the personal anxiety that causes so much of our suffering. You go from feeling like your specific worries are the center of the universe to realizing you are just one small, interconnected part of a much larger picture.
And ironically, recognizing your own smallness is what brings the relief.
Because when you aren't the center of the universe, you don't have to carry the weight of the universe.
Exactly. That's the freedom in it.
So what does this all mean? If we zoom out and look at the whole journey these February 27th notes have taken us on,
It's quite a progression.
it really is. We started with the broad philosophical goal of minimizing tomorrow's anxiety. The text gave us permission to trust every type of need, financial, emotional, physical, to a higher power.
Utilizing the concept that one day is 1,000 years to dilate the present moment.
Right, shrinking the looming threat of the future. And from there, we moved into the architectural phase, the 6-step devotional framework that acts as this cognitive scaffolding.
Using that praise sandwich to ensure we process our needs and our flaws from a place of security and abundance, completely bypassing our natural negativity bias.
And finally, it gave us the genius tactile 5-finger method, a physical device you literally carry on your own body, designed to teach empathy, right-size our personal anxieties, and force us to look at our broader community before we look at ourselves.
And for you listening, the core value here transcends the specific theological origins of the text.
Absolutely.
Whether you are actively looking to structure your own daily reflections, or whether you are a parent or grandparent searching for tangible ways to teach emotional regulation and mindfulness to kids.
Or even if you're just fascinated by how historical texts have successfully organized human thought.
Yeah, these frameworks are incredibly powerful tools. They are proven mechanisms for cutting through daily mental clutter.
They are the filing cabinets for that internal junk drawer we talked about at the very beginning. They take the mess, they give it an architecture, and that is where peace is actually found.
It really is the transition from a reactive state of worry to a proactive state of structured trust.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your day, carrying this new architecture with you.
Let's hear it.
If you were to borrow that 5-finger mnemonic right now, to map out your own daily priorities or your own community concerns completely independent of this text, who or what would currently land on your ring finger of vulnerability? Who is the weakest link in your sphere right now that needs your focus before you reach the pinky finger of your own worries? It's a structural question that might just change how you see your entire day.